Howdy ho. Christ is risen.
Truly he's
I
risen.
think you have to do it. You're the first.
I don't have to do it.
All right. Well, you get to, right? That's
Yes.
the thing. Let's walk through the what are our three most common, right? We're in the Rokor parish, so
Oh yeah.
we do English, Slavonic,
Greek.
Yep. Right.
Pretty much.
Can you walk us through the three?
I think I can. So yeah, you have Christ is risen, truly he's risen. You have Christos voskresie, voistinu voskresie, and you have Christos anesti, alitos anesti.
All right, there you go. You got your language in for the day. We're still in the Paschal season. And yeah, I don't think we've been around since probably second or third week of Lent. So a lot has happened. We got to go to the cathedral.
Yes.
We consecrated, right?
They consecrated a new bishop or ordained a new bishop.
Yeah.
Both are appropriate. But
yep. And then we have some controversy trying to figure out
what's the deal with Father Seraphim Rose?
Blessed Saint, blessed. What do we get to call him? And as you even tell, I have this icon painted. Reach out to my friend Nathaniel. What's Nathaniel's? Figure out what his Instagram handle is. Maybe I'll throw it in the comments. He's a good friend and
great iconographer.
Yes,
fellow struggler.
Let's see here. I'll find his handle is Nathaniel McGahey Icons. All right, go check out his stuff. This is he painted this one. It's probably almost over a year now, so we'll get to chat a little bit about that. Some of the main things for today, and then maybe we'll be starting a series.
Yes, God willing.
The deacon and I have been thinking about, which we'd be happy for feedback.
Yeah, and suggestions, and
because I would like to do something like how history makes you Orthodox. I think a lot of people will say, to read church history, that's a big lever, a big influence for people once they kind of go back and look at church history. It's I would say it's pretty obvious at that point, but everyone has their bias and presuppositions, which we chatted about.
Yeah.
And I told Deacon how many conversations I've had, whether it's the papacy or sola scriptura. I go, all right, let's start at Christ and let me know where you lose me, right? Because as you go through, like, hey, sola scriptura, okay, so it's 75 AD and you live in Thessaloniki. What are you doing there?
Yeah.
Are you sitting at home with your Bible?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, John hasn't written Revelations yet.
Yeah.
Let alone the other letters probably haven't gotten there. Maybe you have the letters from Paul. He showed up.
You might have the First Thessalonians or whatever, but
and is that only in? It's funny, when I was in Thessaloniki, I don't remember the church. There's a monastery there where he was at teaching. Because even then, if he wrote a letter to the Thessalonians, how long did that take to, go into, I don't know, being passed around where people actually, we chatted about this earlier with scandals going on, and, in the ancient world, people would send letters, and a lot of times, would it not be, they'd send letters with the, I don't want to say idea that they'd get found, right? Because we have letters from Saint Cyril, right? Was he against Nestorius?
Yes.
Is that right? Right. Don't we have some of those letters, or even, I think didn't you do a whole thing on, was it Martin Luther, or who was writing of the reformers to some of the?
Yeah, it was about 50 years after Martin Luther died. The Tübingen theologians, that were writing to Patriarch Jeremias II of Constantinople, trying to do this dialogue, and it ended up not working out.
Was it because then you say the first one he's kind of charitable, and at the end he's like, "You guys are heretic,"
Yeah, I mean that's an
overly,
I do recommend. So there's a really good book that is just the translation, the collection of those letters. It's called Augsburg and Constantinople. I really recommend it, especially for anybody. If you're Protestant and you have any curiosity with Orthodoxy, that would be a good one, because that's literally a pen pal argument between Protestants and Orthodox.
And at that point, he's actually trying to be like, hey, these are the issues we have with the Catholic, the Roman, the Latins. Hey, this is what we see is going on. These are our issues. What do you guys think? What's going on over there? Because they eventually go to, I don't know, how do they end up using the kind of Talmudic set? How does that?
They switched to using Masoretic text instead of the Septuagint. That I actually had a conversation with our priest about that today. So that was. Oops, I need to move my chair so I don't keep bashing this. I hope that doesn't come through on the mic. But anyway, yeah, that was just the German scholastics at that time, because at one of those many things, and we've kind of talked about academia before, where people get really into this like source critical view. And what they were doing is looking at, the Masoretic text versus the Septuagint, and you have a lot of the early Protestants were really anti-Catholic. So they were like, well, the Catholics have this Septuagint. Let's look at what the other, like the Jews are the Old Testament, which
the comment that
actually,
that whole idea, it's like actually we're the continuation, and they most likely got rid of some of the texts that would point to Christ, right? Particularly,
I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was in like AD 90, there was a council of the Jews, and it's called something, the Council of
I don't know.
I can't remember it, but that's where they were starting to like basically go away from the Septuagint, and this is the beginning of where these Masoretic texts start coming from. And obviously from an Orthodox Christian perspective, what they did is they trimmed out a lot of things that point to Christ, that are because they're trying to identify themselves very differently from the Christians. And so that's why the Protestant Bible, when they started using the Masoretic texts instead, and the reason they did that is they're like, oh, well, these to them appeared more like faithful or legitimate than.
And they're also, and then Septuagint means 70. And I think I've heard Father Stephen D. Young chat about even the idea of that, because we've chatted like the Ethiopians in the early church, we don't have as big as of an issue with how do you want to say what's in the Bible. It's more of like what we use in the liturgy. Right.
Sure.
We go backwards. This is what we use in liturgy, and then they compiled like the letters and whatnot. And that's mostly New Testament. For Old Testament, because the Masoretic just basically is the 70 that they cut out a couple books, right? They don't have Tobit, they don't have Maccabees, which is funny. In Maccabees is Hanukkah. It's like you want to chat about Hanukkah, and then how can you, and Christ celebrates Hanukkah. So you're going to tell me that Christ celebrated Hanukkah, but didn't have the book of Maccabees?
Well, I think part of the reason they did that was they had, when they were compiling the Masoretic text, they had several rules about what they could do, and or like what the books had. The books had to be X, Y, Z. And one was like, it has to be written in Hebrew, so it can't be like Aramaic or Greek or something. And it has to be before, the book has to be dated from before a certain time. And I know the dating is what got Maccabees thrown out,
because it's 200 years. 150, 200 BC, right?
It's because I think like with the Protestant Old Testament, like there's about a 500-year gap from the latest book
up until Christ. Be Daniel. Well,
so half a millennia is just gone. And then it's like, okay, but then you have like Maccabees is actually, you've got the Hellenization of things, you've got Alexander the Great, you've got like all of this stuff that's, I think, very relevant for understanding the New Testament, like the to use kind of like academic terms, but like the socio-political landscape of what the Jews were dealing with by the time Christ comes around. So
I mean, I think I find that stuff all super interesting. And like I said, that's kind of like that whole idea. I was thinking about if we do a series, how history will make you Orthodox, or even just reading the Bible, specifically the Bible that, the Orthodox Church gives us, and even going through some of the nuances of like, okay, why did those, and even translations, right? Which is a whole other conversation, right? And even letters we were chatting about, right? I'm pretty sure, like, again, it's Irenaeus who says something like, if Rome says it, it's the church. And there was like, well, that means Rome's the church. It's like, that's not necessarily, we said, if he said Jerusalem, if he had said Byzantium, which I don't know, when did Byzantium was Byzantium until Constantinople, the city, right?
And Constantinople wasn't one of the patriarchates until
Nicaea, or
until Nicaea. I think it might have even been a little bit after, but no, it had to be, because that's,
I think it's
Niceno-Constantinopolitan Council. So of course.
Well, that way we'll get our ducks in a row. But those are just conversations I've had with you And then when I'm chatting with other people about the church, right, and I'll say whatever the argument is, Unitarian or what books to have, and I'm like, all right, let me know where you lose me, because I see with our church, the Orthodox Church, the most, congruency, and I can just walk through the history and be like, okay, where do you see that priests can't get married, right? Like that wasn't a thing, up until the Gregorian reforms, which is like 11.
11 something. It's 12th century, I think. That was kind of wild to me, because I had a friend asking about that, so I dug into it more and realized I didn't know that when they declared that now all clergy have to be celibate, that they, as part of that, annulled all the marriages of existing clergy. Which was kind of wild.
Well, and and again, I think a lot of the arguments that are had by both sides, because my understanding with the Gregorian reform was that they were having bishops being bought and paid for, and then you get a guy who's a bishop or a priest, and then he wants his son to be the priest, and then because in modernity we don't really think about two things I think we've chatted about before. It's like 500 years ago, if you're born under a blacksmith, you'd be a blacksmith. Maybe you could go be a farmhand, like you're a sir, like you're not going to be like, oh, if I could just make it to Hollywood, or maybe you could be a knight. We've chatted about that. That was your chance for glory. Right. Like, okay, I'm gonna join the crusade. Maybe I'll do something noble, and then I become a knight.
Right. Or get loot, treasure. Like, I mean, this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but the like, a lot of the reason a lot of people went to war, like crusades, and you see this the same in the Islamic world with jihad, like when they would, it's mostly because I get to raid and steal stuff, and maybe I can come home and be rich.
Rape and pillage, get a wife or two, depending on your,
or slaves, if you're like Christians didn't take slaves as war trophies so much like that, but the Muslims definitely did. And then,
I mean, this happened up until World War II, right? After the Germans were defeated, 2 million German women were raped that we know about.
Lord have mercy.
So it still happens. You know?
That's true.
Well, I'd assume how many people, right? You talk about that even with our military now. CIA, it depends on your garden poppy fields. CIA, you're corruptible people. And I'm not trying to pin out any particular person, but and then again, if you were raised in obscurity on a small farm in the middle of England, and someone goes, "Hey, you want to go to Jerusalem? Like you get a vacation, you're gonna get food,
you get pilgrimage, the Holy Land, you get to fight, and
maybe you get a wife, and then
or just wealth and glory. And then
could you be? Come back. And as far as knight, I mean, that's usually you had to be a lord of a land, right? I mean, could you go over and kind of like, if I won a battle nobly, could I become a knight? Or
there's a lot of records of people getting knighted, like for their deeds in battle by a king or something. I'm a little bit fuzzier on this. I'm not sure. It depends, because we usually talk about, when we talk about the Middle Ages and Europeans, we talk about it like one big blob.
Sure. Really different jurisdiction. What's going on in France versus England versus Serbia,
come on, and all the different kingdoms within like modern day, like Spain and France and like Germany and Prussia and the Byzantine Empire, and so you see a lot of differences. But whoever had the authority to knight, you could be knighted. There are some funny things in England where later, like late Middle Ages, you have some people refusing to be knighted because being knighted at that time came with a tax, and they were like, I will be more wealthy if I stay not knighted. But
well, and then you also, I assume there's other responsibilities. I don't know if the kingship, going to war, right? You always I don't know how much of that's true, where they they say call the banners, and then I assume too there would be places. I mean, medieval Europe seems pretty confusing to me because of the jurisdictional issues that happen, like the Bohemians and the Holy Roman Empire and the fractioning, and then they're picking and choosing what king to be under because of hey, this one's better or worse, or this one won't tax me as much. And if you're on the fringe, we chatted about this, right? Is it it's a Saborski, the Polish king that shows up at the Polish Hussar raid in Milan.
The winged hussars, like that one.
What's in the city, the Italian city?
Oh, Vienna.
Yes, right. And I think we chatted, right? To my understanding, he like gets all of his guys together and starts going south, and then
Mhm.
like some other, knight
Yeah.
attacks him and he has to like turn around,
Yeah.
just because that's how people were.
Right. Like,
Unfortunately.
all his men at arms are off, so let's hit the city
Yeah.
and get
Kind of
loot.
like Robin
Yeah.
Hood.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we can go down that rabbit hole for a while. Why don't we chat a little bit about Blessed Father Seraphim Rose? Because it's funny not to name drop, right? But we've simultaneously we were at the consecration of our newest bishop, Bishop Peter.
Right.
And then it is Rocor who is currently investigating.
Yeah.
I think is the term that Father had used. Bishop James, I believe, is in charge of gathering all the material. Right. So do you kind of want to walk us through kind of what because that article came out and said he's a saint, right?
Yeah, that kind of frustrates me. But I mean, this is like when the articles came out that said, the Rocor Synod has agreed to move forward with the canonization of Father Seraphim Rose. And then everybody on the internet's like, he's a saint now. And they are saying Saint Seraphim and all this stuff. And I know, like, okay, he is canonized within the Georgian Orthodox Church, the country.
And that's been a while, I think.
Yeah,
right?
that was it's been a few years at least.
I was in 10 years.
Yeah.
I think it could be wrong.
Yeah,
I thought, because I think side story, when I was in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago, and there's a skeet, the Serbian skeet.
Yeah.
And St. Michael, the Archangel skeet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And because it's Serbian, right? And that's another thing. A lot of people, the monastery, St. Herman's, is now Serbian. Right? It was Rocor, and then it went through a, let's say, transition period. So technically, where Blessed Father Seraphim's body is at a Serbian monastery. But when I was at that skeet, they had some of his pictures, and I think it was his 30 anniversary is 30 years from his repose. I think he reposed in 82.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people know that photo of like him just kind of like
sitting at the table. Yeah.
And then I have the one where he's in he's reposed.
Oh yeah.
Where his face is like just kind of looks like it's glowing.
Right.
He's
in his coffin.
So it was funny though. I'd pick those up, and I was in there and they had some pictures and whatnot. It's like, and they're a couple, I don't know, $5, whatever. I'm like, dude, how cool. Like we have I have his Soul After Death here. I have his other ones probably downstairs.
Yeah.
Religion of the Future. But it's like, wow, I've been to Platina. I've seen his body. Like this guy was walking. When I told you that one time I was at the old cathedral, this nun had come up to us. It's like, you're standing right where Father Seraphim was at,
right.
And I was like, what? A saint, a blessed man who most likely would be canonized as a saint stood here. So I think it's super exciting though for a lot of converts because he had such a big effect on everyone to see it happening at least in real time.
Sure.
And
he's also, we'll get to this a little bit. I think there's also, unfortunately, a lot of pushback from certain people who really don't like. It's less that they don't like Father Seraphim Rose, or it's more that they don't like the people who like Father Seraphim Rose. And then, of course, it's painfully obvious that most of the people who say things about Father Seraphim Rose actually haven't read anything that he's written. So, which is disappointing. But so we can talk about some of that too. But one thing, Bishop Irenee of London and Western Europe, he had this really great interview, and I'm trying to remember where you can find this on. I
think the UOJ posted it.
They might have, but I think it's like Orthodox Europe or something is some website, but it's the transcript of the interview and it's a lot of the things it talks about are Father Seraphim Rose. And I really appreciate Vladika, like
very
Bishop
articulate.
Irenee. Yeah, he's excellent at handling things like this. And so he pointed out how he's just like, it's surprising that everyone's like, oh, so he's a saint now. And he's like, does nobody know how the church does these things?
No, we don't. And honestly, that's
so,
what's exciting is like, we're young, we're new. We'd have never been through this process. It's like, pay attention, folks, too, because you and I were joking, like, however it plans out, like what will St. Herman's be like?
Yeah.
It would be, I said it would be like Woodstock, which is funny because if you know anything about Father Seraphim being in that whole counterculture revolution,
right? That would be kind of.
And if Father Damascene, and Nathaniel had said this to me, that towards the end of his life, people would say he was hesychastic. He's
Uh-huh.
like, no, I'm not. And even just, you know, I'm no one's spiritual father.
Yeah.
And
right.
now you look at how many people he's been a somewhat of a spiritual, not in the
in the literal sense,
Yeah.
but in metaphorically, like how many people he's guided beyond his repose
Yeah.
with all his writings. Yeah. And he is, he's a really incredible person. And I'm glad, like, you know, Rokor's decided to move forward with this, which means unless something comes up, like he's on the path of being canonized.
I think because they started maybe in the fall or a year or two, because we chatted about it at the consecration before this article in the synod had happened.
Right. Because they had agreed to actually
kind of look into, like, because they have to do some research, and you know, you need to steelman it and be like, okay, well, what are some reasons not to? This, and this. Like, no one's going to be perfect, obviously,
of course,
except Christ. You know, even I think with St. John, there was lots of controversy with him. Something with the cathedral as it was being built. And
they were like his own parish council took him to court and everything. It was. So you have all sorts of, like, there's always controversy. This is partially why, from what I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons, but I've heard that this is partially why we usually wait quite a while after someone's death before we even look into canonizing him, is because we want to make sure all the information comes out, and that, like, all the tempers and anything kind of dies down, that there's the benefit of time, so that we know we can get clearer idea of who this person was.
I'm gonna be that guy. When I was on Athos and I talked to a monk there, he did say, and he's kind of an academic too. It's from Nashville, Tennessee. That's I told you that story. I mean, he's like, you know, honestly, you should probably wait 3 generations. It's like, you know, there are certain people, you know, like, don't get, like, there are exceptions to the rules. Because I asked him, I go, okay, so you can say St. Paisios and St. Porphyrios, because they were,
or St. John.
And he's like, well, no, there are people who are the exception to the rule proves the rule. But his opinion was, and this is church fathers and people, you know, he wouldn't say, I think,
sure.
He said, you know,
the church
would tell you, you know, one generation, you're definitely going to be biased. Like, you know, like Elder Ephraim, I'm pretty sure most people he will be a saint. And you do realize, because he has how many spiritual children living now, all of them are going to say he's a saint. And anyone that probably confessed him would say he's a saint. And he probably is. Don't get me wrong.
But
and then you can see that their children would be the same way. And then if their children are still venerating, like, then it's getting more and more obvious than like, okay, this wasn't a flash in the pan kind of thing. You know, and some saints like Father Sarah, like, you know, his writings went worldwide. Like, it'd be hard to look back and be like, dude, this guy's writing, you know, was all over Europe instantly. You know, he kind of was like feeding that post Iron Curtain, right? That the Iron Curtain was coming down, like materialism sitting America, New Age. Like, he kind of came in and dissected and told us exactly what was to happen, you know. And that's, you know, maybe I'll chat about that icon at some point, because to me, when you look at what Saint Seraphim Rose did, very similar. Like, he kind of said, hey guys, this is where we're going. You know, so it's probably a good idea to buffer, you know. And again, as you can tell, we'll chat about my icon. I have an icon of him. Nathaniel was blessed, who has a blessing from the monastery to paint Father Seraphim, and many people have an icon. And maybe we can chat about that, how with us, we venerate people who we think and know to be saints. And then if it dies out, it dies out. But then in the meantime, we investigate and look into, hey, is this, you know, because you can venerate anyone, can you not?
I mean, so, technically, because veneration is just giving honor to, and at the same time, we recognize, like, the image of Christ is in everyone. So, but there's a difference, though.
Sure, let's chat, like, because let's get right. So Bishop Irenaeus, the funny thing about Bishop Irenaeus' article slightly was like, if you read it, it's like, is he a saint yet? It's like, technically no. Is he not a saint? Well, no, not. It is a little bit of, we're in this medium ground, and if you read it and you don't know how we canonize a saint, you'd be like, so he isn't a saint, but he
isn't not a saint.
So
the thing the important thing I think that frustrates me is because we live in a great time where there's a lot of new Orthodox converts that are really eager, but then they all bandwagon off of each other when someone's like, oh look, he was made a saint, and no one actually seemed to have read the letter.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing. Not trying to boast, forgive me,
because you had posted it, and I was like, hey, is there an official statement from our bishops?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, my godson posted the thing. He's like, oh, this is exciting. And yeah, the letter, like, if you just read it, it says like, yeah, they've agreed to move forward by recognizing like his righteous life and all of this. And so then everyone's jumping the gun and saying, oh yeah, he's a saint now. So, and all the kind of hipsterish stuff of like, oh, we always knew he was, and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that's important is he has not officially been canonized. And when people ignore that, I think that's a big problem, because that's actually showing great disregard for how the church works. And if you are in the church, you should be like participate in the life of the church. So, but anyway, I'm not here to give
in
pastoral
this
advice.
House.
Yeah.
Was it Christopher Columbus?
Christopher Columbus is a hero.
Yeah. I mean, that's it though, right? The church says this is who a saint is. Doesn't mean you can't, venerate him. Doesn't mean you can't pray to him. Doesn't mean you read his writings and talk about. But what is the official stance of the church right now is we're still working towards his canonization.
Yeah.
And once that happens, his canonization is not a piece of paper.
No, exactly. That's the thing, is saints are not canonized by someone signing a piece of paper. What it is like, like anything, like ordination, like any service of the church, it happens in the services of the church. So I really there's many things, like I'm sure prayers and hymns and things and akathists maybe that need to be composed. I think there might even be some.
I was going to ask how that works, because I know people can make them, like, right? You make, because I thought Jonathan, I think, had worked on a draft.
He's put some traparia together.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, I think you kind of submit those and yeah, but basically once the church the Synod of Bishops decides on, okay, here's the hymns and things we're going to go with, they have to select what his feast day is going to be. He's already commemorated at St. Herman's, on, I think it's the anniversary of his repose.
Yeah,
right?
I think September.
Yeah. So most likely that would be his feast day.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, once all of that's together and everything's been agreed and they're ready to move forward, then they go, most likely this would happen at St. Herman's. I doubt they would do it anywhere else. And they would serve a final panikida for him, which that's the service of praying for the dead. So they would pray for his soul one more time, and then they'd start a vigil and a liturgy in which he's commemorated as a saint, and those hymns and things would be brought in and used during those services. And then after that point, it's like, there he is. Now he's on the calendar. Now he's a saint, because we've actually served services in the church with him being commemorated among the saints, rather than. Do they
get plugged in? I mean, obviously he'll have his own day, because I just think about, what's funny is it if we did a full Vespers or vigil, because now that I got my chance to participate in the first vigil reading, we always do the long list of saints commemorated in matins.
Yes.
Right. But it can be done in Vespers, where we do like equal to the apostles, like
is this like when the deacon does the save of God thy people and
and then blesses the holy martyrs?
Yeah, that's always matins. There is,
because I saw it in Vespers though. In the Vespers book, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but there's a place that you could do it.
Yeah, I think there's a place where the reader,
it's towards the end,
does say save of God thy people. But
I'm saying, because I took it home, right? So the reader, right, he gave me it, and I was reading through all of it, and I saw it's twice. It's in the Vesper, and then I was like, we do it in the matins.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, I get it.
But it's probably because we do them both together too.
Right. We do it as a vigil service.
Yeah, where you list all of them, like Vlad and Helena, and then the great martyrs.
Us being a Russian church, we go through like all of basically the spiritual lineage of Russia, and then into the spiritual lineage of Rokor. And then we finish with our saint, the saint that's the protector of the temple. And we just lost signal. Dang it. Darn it.
All of our live people are going to go away.
Yeah, no. There we go. We're back. Sorry about that. We're still trying to figure out what's happening.
I'm not apologizing for nothing. Welcome to the show.
I'll apologize for my friends.
No.
How about that?
I'm apologizing. Because then Saint Seraphim gets mentioned twice. Right?
Yeah,
because we mentioned him in the front,
and because he's part of the spiritual lineage, and then he's the protector of our temple, and then you go through the saints that are commemorated that day. Yeah. So I doubt Father Seraphim Rose would be added to that,
anything like that,
because that would be that'd be adding him to like the service books and everything. I assume eventually he would have hymns and stuff that are be added to the Meneon, which would be a big deal, but that would probably take a long time for it to actually be added in. I'm sure people will make their own like Meneon pages, like hymns and stuff for him, and then you can download them and print them or whatever. And then I'm sure soon we'll see parishes that are commemorated to him and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, which will be pretty cool. But yeah. And why don't you tell us about this icon though? Because speaking of spiritual lineage,
sure, yeah, I'll talk a little bit. So I get, but so Saint Seraph or Blessed Seraphim, he is canonized. So I was going to ask, do the Georgians? I don't know. Do you think they have hymns and all that in his feast day celebrate?
I assume they must have something, like, because if they've actually canonized him locally, then they've done that sort of thing on a smaller scale. So
yeah, they would have, like I said, they would have had to have gone through that process. And then, but then too, that's one of the beauties of Orthodoxy is the different types of venerations, because it's like certain jurisdictions have canonized a saint, and then others will join in usually later. Right. I think like Paisios was first in the Greek church, and then usually So
yeah, almost most commonly it's a saint first gets recognized by their local church.
Yeah, he was Rocor.
Yeah. Which is interesting in Father Seraphim Rose's case, because it's like
technically
it's like the Georgians wanted to be like, nope, we'll do this before America does.
Yeah.
But
I think he was good friends with the Georgian patriarch.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think that was he was like the Georgian patriarch kind of like how shall I say, put the effort down. He's like, I had direct contact with him. I think they wrote letters back and forth, and they were close.
Nice.
Which is funny enough too. You usually have, I mean, obviously we have Bishop James and our other, is it true? I think you had told me that Archbishop Kirill got some of Seraphim Rose's spiritual children, or
oh yeah, I think Father David was telling me about that, because that's after he reposed.
Because if he reposed in 82, Archbishop Kirill would have probably been around at that point.
Yeah,
our current archbishop.
Right. I'm trying to remember what
year
he was made bishop, but he's about Father David's age.
Yeah,
like Father David's technically a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't know by how much.
Months I think Father David was in the late 80s. Right, that then he was a little bit.
Well, he was ordained a priest in the late 80s.
Yeah,
so that's
So I'm just saying, the math on Father David, I think early 80s, he was
a deacon. Yeah. And so, I don't know what I don't know enough about back then. I'd just be guessing.
Yeah,
but
it's just cool just to have a. There's some people at our church that had met even St. John Maximovitch. He reposed in 66, I think 68.
Yes. 66. Anyway,
either somewhere around that
in
time frame.
In the mid 60s, late 60s. Yeah, I can't remember you. I think it is 66 or 67.
Yeah,
but and then there's a lady at our parish who saw him, knew him when he was still before he departed this life. She's very old, obviously, but
it's funny. You hear stories about him floating around the altar. Most people know about St. John Maximovitch. That's why he had asked me about the icon here. And I assume most people will know that. Right. So I'm trying to think what year St. Seraphim had converted, or Blessed Seraphim. Because St. John, I think it was late 50s he got here. Was it 58, 9? Right. He was here for a handful. It may even been even in the 60s. He may have only been here for 5-ish years. Someone will correct me.
Yeah, someone might know.
Because St. John had been all over the place, right? He was in Serbia first, and then
France, and
I think he went Serbia, China, then France.
Yeah, that's right.
Then I don't know if he was like in Singapore or
Yeah.
somewhere down, and then he came here.
Yeah.
But part of the reason I have this icon, I've had a, let's just say, interesting experience with St. John a time or two. And if you haven't, I would highly, highly, highly recommend
do a pilgrimage.
Go to the cathedral. Right, his body is there, incorrupt.
His
so
relics are there.
You can go and see his feet, and it's like it looks like it's dried out.
Yeah,
but his
hands,
body has not been consumed by bacteria. And
that's kind of amazing.
I think they uncovered he was underground, which is the other crazy
for 30
thing.
years.
He's I think he's the only one, because in San Francisco there was they didn't allow anyone to be buried underground because of earthquakes, in the actual city. And so they have a crypt for him underneath the cathedral, and he was down there. And then I think 91 or 2, they went down
Father
there.
David was there.
To pull the relics, and then they saw his body was uncorrupt.
And we got to see the video of that happen. With Father Peter Parakreskov going around with his film of all these pictures and movies of not only St. John, but we have Tsar Nicholas and
Metropolitan
Tikhon. We've got Patriarch Tikhon, and then Saint Elizabeth, the new martyr. Grand Duchess. Seeing her like walking, like
glow. On her.
In her white monastic habits, it's like, whoa. It's
scanned off the white. Right. Like Grand Duchess Elizabeth.
Right.
And
then just with St. John, but the video of them singing the hymns and bringing his coffin up, and I knew that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We might be able
to see that. Like if I'm assuming they'll do an uncovering of the relics of Father Seraphim.
Which can be a scandal in itself. Right.
Oh yeah. So talking about that.
We'll chat about Saint Seraphim, you're saying. So I had asked Nathaniel here, I said, hey, it's funny because it kind of developed over time. I said, hey, would you paint St. John for me? He's like, I've painted him, I think once or twice. And we were busy. It was Lent, and I just kind of brought the idea up, and I think I brought it up another time, and then the third time I brought it up, we were at Chase's, and I said, hey man, let's I know I've chatted about like let's go ahead and do it. And I said, by the way, I don't know how much I should share. I think he'll be okay with it. Forgive me, Daniel. I'll take it down if you're not. But I'd asked him, I said, who have you painted? He goes, honestly, Father Seraphim. And I brought up the nuance. He goes, I got a blessing, and it's not, and he recognizes the nuance with all that. And I had said, well, why don't we paint them together? Because for those who don't know, right, St. John was the bishop when Father Seraphim came into the church, and he was, to my understanding, much like a spiritual father. And he gave him the blessing then to, which I've heard controversies with that. I think they're kind of about the location, and some people, I think, wanted the monastery closer, and Father Seraphim really wanted it kind of more secluded. So if you haven't been to Platina, it's pretty secluded. It's for California, as secluded as you can get. So I was like, let's just paint them together, And I'm trying to think how then your saint came in for whatever reason. Honestly, part of it was that I was on Patristic Nectar, and I already liked everything I'd read. What's the smaller one where Saint Seraphim transfigures with?
It's on the acquisition of the Holy Spirit. With Montovilov. Montovilov.
Yes. I'd read that, and obviously heard stories that you've told me about him. And Father decided to like a 5-part lecture series on them. They're an hour long each, and they were phenomenal. And I was like chatting with Nathaniel. I was like, man, I don't know why I feel like we should have, Saint Seraphim. And for those who don't know, I mean, obviously Saint Seraphim is impact, like he's got to be one of the top. It's so funny. It's like, you have
his monastic patron.
Yes.
I believe, Father Seraphim Rose, when he was baptized, he was baptized with his birth name, Eugene, because Yevgeny, Eugene is still a saint name. But then it wasn't until he took monastic vows that he got the patron saint, Saint Seraphim. Yeah. And I think, Saint Eugene.
Well, and to dunk on you, the whole joke about like American converts and like Barsanuphius. Hey, let me introduce you to my 3 friends: Barsanuphius, Seraphim, Tikon, Trifon. You know what I mean?
Porphyrios or something. Yeah.
Just the names that are not that
right
Americanized.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term.
And that's a stereotype among like especially Orthodox
Paisios.
Paisios, that they're all going to take like these really not American names that most Americans have never heard before.
Yeah, you don't take Peter and Michael and Matt and Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I want to be Barsanuphius. Or
you couldn't pick Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Or even like some of the little old school but stuff everyone's aware of like Old Testament names like Isaiah, or Elijah, Isaac,
Noah.
Noah.
It's a funny joke, but in all honesty, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's like, it's then cool. People are like, your name is Seraphim? What? Who? The angel? It's like, yes. And let me tell you about Saint Seraphim Seraphim, or Paisios. Do you know about Saint Paisios of Mount Athos, or Porphyrios? Like these are that is part of the reason you take the name. You're glorifying, and magnifying the saint. Like I am trying not only emulate, but I am an extension and showing the world and pointing back to this person who emulated Christ. So funny enough, I kind of put those, how I say, connections together. I'm like, oh, you got Saint Seraphim, and he's our church, so I definitely feel close to him. I've had an experience or two with him, and then and that as that idea came into my experience, another idea came into my experience with Saint John of Kronstadt, who I was not that familiar with. And I'd seen him and maybe I had, or maybe I hadn't, but have you noticed in our church we have our royal martyrs? Saint Seraphim Seraphim, Saint John of Kronstadt. I didn't even, maybe I did, who knows? But I kept having like this feeling of like, you got to have Saint John of Kronstadt in too. And I didn't know anything about him, really. I knew, I'd seen his picture a time or two. We have him on our wall. And then again, Father Sai had a really good 5-hour, 1 hour lecture. I think there's 5 of them. And again, blown away just about him. And
did you? I'm sure you have like his belt, like Zone, is at the cathedral, St. John.
Oh yes, here ours. It's right. If you're in the far left, and St. John Maximovitch was he was very much influenced by St. John of Kronstadt. St. John was the priest at the cathedral, and St. John Maximovitch was one that really advocated for his canonization. So you have like this kind of like, okay, so St. John, and then the other thing was with the Kursk Root Icon. So if you're not familiar with the Kursk Root Icon, long story short, I think we've chatted about it before. If not, you should learn about it. But long story short, it healed Saint Seraphim Seraphim. And then on the other end, Saint John Maximovitch died with it. So you have again, and then to me, I'm like, all these, okay, so you have a American monastic named Seraphim, right? And then you have a Russian named Seraphim. And both of them, in my opinion, are very prophetic in their writings. Like if you read both of them, Saint Seraphim of Seraphim was very much, how should I say, heeding the direction of Russia at the time.
This is before the revolution.
He's like,
he knew this was coming.
And then on the other end, you have 2 more priestly men, right? St. John Maximovitch, you hear stories of him just everywhere going, giving his shoes away to people, just a leader. People loved him, very humble. And then the same thing with St. John of Kronstadt. If you read some of his stuff, just like he did group confession because there were so many people coming to him.
He also did liturgy every day. Which is, if you know the prepreration that a priest has to do, like that is crazy.
Just every night, every morning, and then all of your priestly duties. I have no idea. And again, just funny stories. He again seemed to be super humble. Like I forget, someone like walked up and had like 10,000 rupees or whatever, and they go, here, Father John. He goes, thank you, and like gave it to someone next to him. He's like, Father John, that was like 10 grand. He goes, good for that guy, just like walked off, but again, I think he, I do believe too, he got caught up in a scandal and by scandal, I mean, like, there were some people who were scandalized by him. I think he had some nice jewelry or something. And he's like, these were gifts. You know, he's like, I'd love to, someone gives him a nice golden cross. Like, yeah, he probably would sell it and give it, you know, but he's like, it's a gift from someone.
Right. You can see photos of him, and his like cassocks and everything are really, really nice.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, I thought, I might be wrong, but I thought St. John of Kronstadt came from a really wealthy family already.
That could be.
And so like he had like this carriage that would bring him around and stuff. And so people were getting scandalized of like, oh, this priest lives all like, you know, lavishly. And really like he kind of concealed all the like fasting and all of the like deprivation that he put on himself.
Yeah.
And then how often people would give him money, he'd pocket it, and then someone would come up in need and he would just reach into his pocket, and whatever was in there was going into your hand. So he just didn't keep anything for himself. But that's tricky when it becomes gifts, when people give. And actually I think that was it, is that because I think St. John Maximovitch did this as well, or the younger St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco.
That's the other thing we didn't say. There are technically two St. John Maximovitches,
right? Because one of them is his ancestor. But but is where like people would give him like really nice vestments or a really nice cassock or something, and he would wear it one time so that person could see him wear it, and then he would go give it away to someone else who needed it. And I think St. John of Kronstadt did something similar, if I'm not mistaken. Cool.
Well, let me thank you for sharing. That's just kind of like a, you know, and we'll see. I actually chatted with Nathaniel about maybe putting the Kursk Root Icon on there. We probably, you know, it's like one of those things that kept unfolding, and and then
the Kursk Root Icon has been to your house, right?
No, I didn't. I kind of told you that story.
That's
right. I was like,
yes, but she's been to my house. Which is amazing, because that icon that through which like God healed my patron saint.
You want to tell the story?
Sure. Of the Kursk Root Icon,
whichever.
Sure. It was already this miraculous wonder working icon by the time of Saint Seraphim Rose, or sorry, Saint Seraphim of Sarov. There's too many seraphims in here. And so many cool things about that icon. And you can look it up. It's on like the Eastern American Archdiocese Ferocor website, because that's where it is. It rests now in like New York. But it was actually, the icon also was there for Bishop Peter's
consecration. I was going to ask you that. It's like cool. We saw it.
Because I think Metropolitan Nikolai is the guardian of that icon. So in case you don't know, typically if there's a wonder working icon or relic like that, there's usually some cleric that's assigned as its guardian. So it's his job to travel with it, bring it around, and like, you know, watch over it, basically.
Because they I don't know if you might tell the whole story.
I guess,
because I was going to say, like, because you can talk about it coming over here, because they basically had to, when the Russian Revolution was happening, right? They went around and just torched everything. They ripped all the churches down. They took every relic, they smelted it down. This is these rich church people with all their gold, and then they just gave, you know.
Right.
But that's how I was just bringing up how the icon, because, you know, you think, oh, this is you know, in Russia, you know, like if we had an icon that came from a tree in Platina, I'd be like, why is it in, you know, Hawaii or Singapore? You know, like, it should be in Russia.
And that's actually something that, from my understanding, like the Russian bishops, they've been pushing for, like, please bring it back. We're sorry.
He's like, I know if I'm bringing it back, it's not coming back.
That's also like, I need to learn the details of this, because I don't know too much. But did you know that some of St. John of San Francisco, some of his vestments were stolen and brought back to Russia so that they could venerate them? And what's cool is that Matushka Tatiana is the one who made those vestments. She's taught my wife a few things about sewing vestments. And so apparently she and her husband, priest Stefan, with the two crosses. They were in Russia, and she saw her own vestments there. Like, wait a minute.
Hey, like, how did these get
I
here?
made those. How did those get here? So relic theft is interesting. But
how crazy is that? So she
yeah.
made the relics for St. John.
Yeah, when she made the vestments that he was vested in after they uncovered his relics.
Wow.
Yeah, which again, just to touch on that real quick to tie up that loop, is that video is really impressive because they're coming out, you know, there's all the ceremony as they bring his coffin that has his mantilla like draped over it, which is that the bishop's like mantle. And then it gets where it needs to be. They set it down, they pop the lid, and like I like to, there's some young priest, he's there for just a moment. He's like waving at everyone and shouting something, and then everyone starts kneeling and prostrating. Yeah, because he was incorrupt, which means it doesn't mean that he looks like he's not dead. Like some people think that we're like, oh, they look like they're still alive, and there are some levels of incorruption that are a lot more alive looking, but no. So he looks kind of mummified, but like bacteria and all of that like he has not rotted or anything. And he had all of his hair, which is amazing. Like if you know anything about how corpses decompose, like that's usually one of the first things to fall out. So yeah. And so then they took him out, revested him, and those vestments I think were the ones that got stolen.
You wonder, like, you pick them up and you be afraid of something falling apart. You
know
what I mean?
Exactly. You got to pull this body out of a coffin and be like, I hope his legs don't fall. You know, you just who knows. So, but yeah, they're circling all the way back to the Kursk Root Icon. So it's called that because it was found in the roots of a tree outside of Kursk, Russia. So they actually don't know originally. I could be missing some information, but they don't know who painted it originally.
Yeah, that's my understanding, because I've asked.
Yeah,
and it's funny because there's an icon of an older man, the top center, and the other ones that they're all prophets.
Yeah,
right. It's Christ it's the Mother of God holding Christ in the middle, and then there's the prophets in the Old Testament, and one that can be a little bit scandalizing. Yeah, depending on your. You know, we usually say you don't want to depict God the Father in an icon.
You can't.
And there are
no man has seen the Father.
Yeah, and
you can't depict that which has not been revealed.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've chatted. Some people will say it's Christ of the ages.
Yeah, the Ancient of Days.
Yeah,
because has been
possible.
Revealed. Yeah,
right. Because you have Christ as a baby, you have Christ in the Middle Age, and then because I think the cathedral, right? I think in there,
at their Pantocrator like place is Christ in glory,
white beard, white hair,
but he's got the white hair and everything of the Ancient of Days. So
I'm saying that's an angle, but I think Father Matthew chatted about
like he really dislikes that where people depict like the Father, because
and even
not supposed to, and he's like, but then there's this miraculous icon, and there's right up in front and center.
It is. That's why it's literally top right. It's literally besides Christ and Theotokos. It's like. Like I said, my low level is like, okay, maybe it's Christ of the ages. I think a lot of people say it's God the Father, but it can't be.
Who knows? But with that, they have so they find this icon in the woods.
It's a hunter.
It's a hunter who finds it. And they bring it back and they venerate it, and just the amount of miraculous things that happened.
Did it go back? So he like pulls it out? They call it a root because it was in a tree.
It's in the roots of a tree.
And then I thought, did they bring it to a town and it kept coming back? Or that's happened with a couple icons. I don't know if it's this one.
The one that comes to my mind when you say that is the one that floated to Mount Athos, and then when they tried to put it somewhere, it kept
coming to the gate.
Coming to the gate, so they put it over the gate.
Like Averon.
That is the original Averon icon, I think.
So that's probably what I was. And you know how it is. Sometimes people get stuff mixed up because I thought I heard that where it got moved but I thought maybe
there is some stuff like that because I think someone steals it.
Yes,
they take it. Oh no, you're right, because it was once it started, the miraculous nature of it was becoming obvious. They tried to move it to Moscow or something to be like, oh well, this needs to be here, and then it would just disappear and reappear back in the church.
I could be wrong. Didn't the stream pop out by the tree too?
Yeah, I think
And
when
then
he removed the icon from the roots, then a stream started flowing.
It's
out
hard to
of it.
remember all.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they built a chapel there.
Yeah, I think that might be. Yeah, and so that's why. And then also it's been chopped in half by
some Mongols showed up.
Mongols. Yeah, they hacked the icon in half, and they threw one half like on one side of the road and one half on the other. And later, I think it was another hunter or pilgrim or someone.
Well, I think it
found
was
the pieces, and when he touched them together,
I heard, and again, this is like kind of like the Dismas story, or the Dismas. We had that both.
Sure.
I think I'd heard one was when the horde came and they sacked it, they threw it in half, and they took off, and they took the guardian, and he went into slavery.
Oh yeah,
right. If you're, and then a Russian noble was like trading, and he heard some priest hemming chants.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yes, I have heard this.
And then he goes, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm a priest." He's like, "I'll buy your freedom." And then he comes back, and I heard he's the one.
Yeah, he picks up the icon pieces and touches them together.
Yeah,
icon fuses back together. It's hard to see that now, just because now it has that silver cover over the top.
I'm
like, because I'm American. Like, I want to see the cut. I want to see the.
I'm the same way. Like even with the Everon, I'm like, pull it out. I want to pull it out, and I want to hold it out here.
Well, myrrh just flows out
for 3 days. I mean, obviously that's what they did. Obviously at the bishop, when it first got there.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. So the guy it gets broken apart. Comes back together. It's still working on the icons, and
and then we'll talk about Saint Seraphim. There's all these healings that came from it. Then later, after Saint Seraphim, like these like anarchists or not like communists tried to bomb. They bombed the church that the icon was in.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, like they did a whole thing where they come in there and they pretend to venerate an icon. They leave a bag next to it, and then it blew up.
Mercy.
And it's this thing where it destroyed everything, and the icon was just untouched. Like it didn't hurt it. So
nice try.
Yeah. And then once the revolution happened, like the icon was smuggled out of Russia into Europe and eventually made its way to the United States, and that's where that icon is now.
Yeah, they had it because everything's being torn down.
Yeah.
When we skipped over your saint story.
Yeah. So rewinding, I'm not sure if this happened. This probably happened. Oh no, this would definitely have happened after it was hacked in half. But yeah, so with Saint Seraphim, he was a young boy. He was on the roof of a church and he fell off. I don't know what he was doing up there, if he was working or if he was playing, but he fell off the roof of a church and like got hurt very badly. His mother thought he was going to die, and so she brought him to their house, and he was not able to be moved. And I'm trying to remember how this works exactly, but it was that I think he had a dream. Oh yeah, this is it. He had a dream, and the Mother of God's standing over his bed with like the apostles near her, and she points at him and says, he's one of us. And then what happens is the Kursk Root Icon is going on procession in the town near Sarav, where Saint Seraphim was. And the mother is like, oh, if only I could get him to the icon, then he could be healed. But like, if I move him, he'll die. And so she's praying, and this huge like rainstorm comes in right as the icon's passing by their house. And so the procession goes, knocks on the door, and is like, can we please shelter the icon in here? And so when the icon's there, the priest is able to bring it to Seraphim and have him venerate it. And then that next morning he wakes up and he's fully healed. Yeah. And so that's the first time. And then of course St. John, when the icon was in the United States, and he was traveling with it, I think in Seattle.
He reposed in Seattle.
Yeah,
and I think he had the icon with him. Yeah.
Yes, he did. I know the story I heard, and I've heard a couple different stories, and this is so recent history, so it's like one of these should be pretty easily provable, but is that, he did liturgy, and then he spent a lot of time like just kneeling in front of the icon, and all the people had moved on, and they're in the like trapeza, like waiting for him, and it's like hours go by,
Yeah.
And then
I think
yeah.
her name, did you make it to St. Tiphon?
I did
Yeah.
not. I feel
Next
terrible
time
about that. Next time I need to
you
go.
can't do everything when you're
Yeah.
there. So I'll if you go there, I would say probably going to the new cathedral is like the number one thing, because that's where St. John's body is.
Yeah.
The old cathedral is the cathedral that he mostly served at, and
Mhm.
that's where St. Seraphim was mostly at.
Yeah.
And then you can actually go to his house, right, which was a church, St. Tikhon's, and it was an orphanage.
Yeah.
And I have up there, you can actually go into his room and sit in the chair, because he didn't sleep in a bed. He only had a chair.
Yeah. Being a monk, and a very
Holy man.
very holy man. Yeah, he didn't waste any time depriving his flesh of comfort. So yeah.
And I can't her name. If you can make it into St. Tikhon's, I would go there. If you get back there again, I think you guys were serving on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So a lot of us got to go over there. So I've gotten to go over there twice, and she'll give you a whole tour. You'll get to go into the room. She'll say, if you feel like it, sit in the chair, but make sure you ask St. John first.
Yeah.
And she tells the story. She told me the story because I think, I don't want to say her. It may be both of her parents were orphans. Right? Because St. John, the story about St. John is he helped get a lot of people out of Russia during the
the purges.
And stuff, and they were in China first, and then he met with some Americans, and then he got them all moved over to the United States and in San Francisco, and then he started an orphanage there too. So there was lots of orphans.
Right.
But she knows the story. She told me, and I feel bad I don't remember. She's like, she told that I don't know if it was her or someone she knew was waiting for him. It was like Vladika. And she's like, we waited through. It was like, we were ready. I think liturgy had ended. He was upstairs. He's like, it wasn't uncommon for St. John to pray for a couple hours. But after like 4 hours, not heard from him. I think they went upstairs and found him.
Yeah. What I heard is the reader was like, I'll go check on him.
I think it was,
And he went upstairs and St. John had collapsed.
Yeah.
And he helped him into his chair. And St. John, he said, the reader, I can't remember his name. This was in an interview thing I saw. So,
okay.
But it was, he said, St. John just said to him, like, I've never felt like this before. And then he reposed, or then the reader asked for his blessing, and he got his blessing, and then he reposed.
Wow.
And apparently that reader has also since departed this life, but his son was talking about that, and he said it really bothered his father was really bothered by that whole thing of like, why was I the one who got to be with him?
I mean, who am I? I would have been like, wow, I was
I know.
Like,
that'd be a reason to rejoice. But
he would know in his heart better than me. I don't, forgive me. I don't want to
judge him. We shouldn't judge him or anything. But that is kind of amazing. I did like that too, because when I first heard that story, I was a reader, and I was like, oh yeah, that's, you have the whole hierarchy right present. You have the bishop at the top and the reader at the bottom. And that's it's cool. But so he reposed while traveling with the Kursk Root Icon after praying in front of it for quite a long time. And so it's an incredible,
it's a cool little connection between all of them.
And
if you get a chance, obviously the Kursk Root still goes around. I think most Road Court churches, it will stop in at some point. So and if you're not, I mean, you can go visit the church while it's there, and then it's customary to go into people's houses, right?
Yes. Yeah, which was really cool, where they brought it to the church. We did a service there, and then our wonderful priest and deacon, because not myself, I wasn't a deacon yet, went around to everyone's house who had signed up, and so they drove all over the Treasure Valley. And then they'd bring the icon into your house, and you'd sing the Troparion. You get to venerate it, and then they would pick it up, and then they would leave. So that was really wonderful. Such a blessing to have that miraculous icon present in my home, on my little icon corner where all my children and my wife and I pray. So
how lucky are we? Glory to God. And then we got to see the consecration. Right, which is another interesting, how often do you get to do that? The Kursk Root was there, so maybe you can fill people in a little bit about, because you've seen, right, Bishop Peter, you've seen him move through some transitions.
When I met him, he was a hierodeacon, And then after he like injured his voice, that's when they made him a priest. And then
And he's a monk. He was a monk.
Oh yeah, he was
right?
a monk by the time.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
Did I tell you? So you met Pagonia.
Uh-huh.
Did she tell you that her brother wanted to be a monastic priest?
Oh, right. And then
she goes up and asks Bishop Peter.
But
she goes,
specifically a monastic priest in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Forgive me. Right.
Yeah.
Which is a big difference. And
Yes.
Father or Bishop Peter is that.
Yeah.
Right. Like very few people, right, being Orthodox. The Catholics, that's kind of, you have to.
Well, they're not even monastic at that point. They're just celibate. No offense to the Catholic priest. Just there's a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Orthodox, though, you right, once you become a deacon, you stay as you are.
Yeah.
Right?
I've actually heard it's subdeacon.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that. I've only heard that. My understanding was that it's major ranks of clergy, so deacon and above.
Okay.
You need to be either married or a monk to take that rank.
Yeah.
So
well, you'd be either you'd have to stay that way, right? So if I'm single, like if I were, if God were to come to me and whatever, it's like, okay, I'm single and I get ordained a deacon, I would remain single.
Yes,
and I can't go dating at that point.
And I think you would specifically have to become a monk. You would have to take monastic vows on top of being a deacon. Yeah, like to help solidify, you in that celibacy. Right. Yeah. It's super rare for us to have like a celibate cleric who's. I
was trying to think of that. I was chatting with a Catholic about it, and they're like, "How many?" I was like. And then I thought at the cathedral, and I'm like, because we've been at some, we had the clergy conference, and I'm like, I've been around. They're all married.
Yeah.
Besides, Bishop Peter, which is partially, he's a bishop now, so he had to have been.
Yeah.
I don't know of any priest monks in the world that I think about it.
Well, there's the Greek one that's right by.
Oh, yes.
Father Nectarios.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a priest monk, an archimandrite actually, but it's pretty rare to meet like monastic clergy that serve in the world that aren't at a monastery serving as like an abbot or just a priest at the monastery.
And that's what Bishop Peter told. So our friend had asked, he goes, "Hey, my brother wants to be a monk priest." And he goes, "Too hard. Don't do it. Priest or monk, not both. You cannot do it. You do not, And that's how, that's like anyone. And when people ask me if they want to become a naturopath doctor, I go, don't. Like if you really like, my advice is to say no. And then if
they really, really want it, they'll do it anyway.
Yes. Because it's, my profession, like there's no residencies. You just can't get a job at the hospital. You have to forge your own path, and it's really difficult to make money.
Yeah.
And, I'd assume Bishop Peter's arguments, like it's hard to be celibate in the world, dealing with all these things. Why put yourself through that? Whereas when you're a monk in a monastery, priest monk, you're around a bunch of guys, it's probably less temptation among other things, but besides, sexual stuff.
Yeah.
But,
one thing I think of is just being a priest monk as the rector and having to hear all the confessions.
Yeah.
And like again, you bring up like all the temptations and stuff that are things that if you're a monk, you're like, well, I've renounced all of that. So I just can't even entertain that. And then all these people are struggling with it all the time. There's actually been that issue of
going to confessing at a monastery.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you have a problem with this?
Yeah.
Like, Father, have you turned on the TV?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Looked at a phone. Yeah. Anything. And there's like, there's been a few incidents of this because there's this problem, usually like a lack of respect for parish clergy is where people are like, well, I want to go confess to a monk, like a priest monk, because I'm more pious. I want like the serious stuff. And it's like, well, your priest at your parish is the best equipped to help you with your problems. So there's a story. Thankfully, it's all been anonymized, whatever. But it's that guy who did this where it's, his spiritual father or his father confessor. He didn't, he was like, oh, he's not being hard enough on me and all this stuff. So he went to a monastery and confessed to a priest monk there. And the priest monk gave him like, oh, okay, well, you need, it was something like, oh, I'm having lustful thoughts for the secretary I work with.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, then you need to abstain from all marital relations for like 8 months or something.
Even with my own wife?
With your own wife, which as a monastic, that makes sense. Like
I can do that, no problem.
But yeah,
sorry, not funny, but
for him, like, so this whole thing developed until his priest had to go, like, because this is something he could not bear.
Yeah.
And it was hurting his marriage even more and all this stuff. So his priest, his poor parish priest, who he's already trying to like go around, had to go to the monastery, talk to that priest and be like, you need to release him from this obedience, from this penance, because he can't do it. Like, and so that's, now I get that, like, priests and priest monks in the world, I'm sure God gives them the grace to be able to handle that sort of thing. But still, it's like that
it's an extra cross that's going to be very, very heavy. Isn't it? There's another story of Saint Seraphim. Didn't he? Oh man, I think I saw this maybe on Harmony. Did he give someone to obedience and Saint Seraphim passed away? Or am I thinking of something completely different? I'm talking about?
So it's not Saint Seraphim, but so this guy ended up getting a vision of Saint Seraphim, or Saint Seraphim has visited him multiple times. That's why this was brought up. But that was where he got a penance to do 1,000 prostrations every night, and when he went to go back to his spiritual father to be like, okay, I did it for however long, a month or something.
Can I be released? Right?
Can I be released from this penance? It's his spirit. He shows up at the church, and they're doing a funeral for his priest, who gave him that penance. And I love like the obedience of this guy, where he's like, well, like, he now holds my penance at up at the throne of God. So he just did that for the rest of his life, 1,000 prostrations every day.
Wow.
Which is incredible. Like,
if you could just do like, if you're awake for 15 hours, right? 10 is 100. Yeah. It's to be like 70 an hour.
Yeah, sure. And I think, like, how many people in the first week of Lent, where we're doing all those prostrations at the great canon, you do maybe maybe
70 a day.
70, 100.
I think it ends up being, it's like 70 or 80 a day split up, because I think it's under it's at 250. I think it's around that 70. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right. 70. I know it's less than 100.
Yeah.
And like, most people are like wiped out after that. And it's like, okay, you're not even 10% or like 1/10 of what he needs to do. So just my goodness. So but what's cool with that is not just, okay, so this guy just had to bow down to the ground a lot. It apparently like really deeply impacted him, and made, like, in that Harmony video, they say like he rose to great heights of spiritual, I can't remember what they say exactly, but basically that this penance that he served faithfully for the rest of his life elevated him to a high level of spiritual maturity.
You have to.
And he did have a vision of Saint Seraphim. It was when he was lost in the city, and
that's right.
He saw him standing there, and people were like moving around him, which is interesting. And he would like point and show him where to go, and then disappeared again. And then he like ran right into the guy he was looking for. So and he's Russian. He couldn't speak English, so he couldn't read the English signs or anything. So
because Saint Sarah, he showed up to several people. That was I remember that there's a Catholic girl.
Yeah, right. She was praying to, I think, St. Francis of Assisi. And then she had this dream where he comes to her with St. Seraphim, and he's like, you really need to find his church. Like, because they're the true, something. And I think it's something like,
I think
more correct, or they're
I think he I don't remember exactly what. I think it was a Harmony video, and he's standing and he like gets out of the way. It's like, you should be praying to him, and she doesn't even know who he is. And then they have a gardener. I think she's French or something. And then she goes into the gardener's room, and she has an icon. She goes, who's that? I seen him in my dream.
Right. Which is wild. Like, to see a face in your dreams that you don't know, and then later recognize it out in the world would be kind of rattling.
I tell you the story of that small icon. It's Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene.
Okay.
There's a monastery in Greece, and I had to like look it up somehow. I hate stretching my mind too much, But I remember I had this icon in this book, and I'm like, I don't remember where I got it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I got back, and I was gone for several weeks, and a bunch of icons. I'm like, who gave me this? And I don't remember the story or anything. I had to like read up on it. But there's this story of I think that these people started having these dreams, and these two guys started showing up and saying,
oh yeah,
we've heard this.
Yeah,
and they're like, hey,
they're all buried.
Yeah. And they told, like, how crazy is this, right?
Yeah.
So basically these people in this village start having this dream, and then they start like doing construction to dig something up. And this story goes both ways. Like some people say, I think 3 ways. One is that the local people started having dreams, and then they started digging, and then they, quote unquote, like they went there and they said, hey, I've heard too that once they started digging, the saints showed up and said, hey, you're going to find us. And then the other end is like they found them, and then the saints showed up. Something along those lines, where they gave them their names. They're like, oh yeah, we were at this monastery. And they didn't happen. And they had a special day during Bright Week, and they didn't know why. Like they had a local veneration, I think on Tuesday of Bright Week, for something, like, and they like, we don't know why. And then they came like, oh yeah, we were martyred during Bright Week by the Turks in 14 . My name is, I think it's Raphael and Nicholas, and those little girl named Irene.
Right. She was, I remember, because she was burned alive in a clay pot. Like
that sounds right. Like sliced her arm off. Like she was running to tell them the Turks are coming, and they like beat her down, and then they tortured all 3 of them.
Right. Because one of them, I think they like sawed through his face.
That could be.
And the other one died of like shock from seeing that or something. Ooh. Yeah, horrible. I remember hearing that. That was, but yeah, I think if I recall how that story goes, is the people were having these dreams, which is what led them to start digging, and that's where they ended up finding.
Yeah, I think they found one. Right, first they like found one, and they're like a couple weeks later, like, well, I'm over here.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, come find me over here. Yeah,
it's so crazy modernity. Yeah, you know, like people will be like, "Are you nuts?" You know what I mean? Honestly, it's like I mean, compared to like the way the world is going, you know. So, yeah, that one's cool. I think we kind of covered most of that story. Do you want to chat a little bit about, because you got the opportunity to be behind the altar at the consecration, right? How many? Right, tons of priests.
Oh man, there were like 30 deacons and 40 priests there. I know, like during the liturgy, like all those priests served, but only 12 of them were able to serve like at the altar, because it's like any more than this, it's going to be crazy. And 12 is a good number. So, you know, since the priests do at a hierarchical liturgy, they do essentially represent the apostles. So, yeah, but that was really incredible to be that close. Although I spent most of the time trying to get out of everybody's way. I got, there was a time I was standing there and
got admonished.
Yeah, well, and there was Bishop Irenae standing directly behind me, and he's standing on his on the eagle rug that bishops stand on. And people kept like pushing on me because they're trying to like shove past me, and I'm very aware that there's a bishop standing behind me, but I'm like, well, maybe I can scooch back a little bit. And eventually I feel his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Father, I should warn you that if you take another step back, we will have to make you a bishop." Yeah. Let's not do that.
The old world Michael would say, is that a promise or a threat?
Yeah.
You know, like honestly, it is like both. No. Yes. So are you telling me, or are you asking me, Father? Bishop Vladika. And then we had 7 bishops, 8.
There were 7, and then they made an 8th. So because there was and you can see all this on like the Archdiocese website. You can on the, I think it's the cathedral's Instagram, there's some really beautiful pictures of all of it. But yeah, of course we had Metropolitan Nikolai there. We had, you know, Archbishop Kirill, Bishop James, Bishop Theodosi. Then we had Bishop Irenae, and then we had Bishop Job from Germany, and Bishop Vasily from the OCA. And who am I forgetting?
7.
That is 7. Okay. And then they made Bishop Peter. So,
and we did a really cool the matins, right? We did a really cool akathist, right?
Yes, yeah. And that was interesting because they would split up like the way they did the akathist was very different from what I'd seen before. Like how they'd have moments in between with like lots of
they
didn't do it all at once like we normally would do.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, they probably did that. And now that maybe I don't know this, the odes.
Yeah,
that's kind of how they did it.
Right? Yeah, I think so, because it would be like they do it
3 or
they would do an ode of the akathist, and then
that kind of fit in almost perfectly, wouldn't it? Because we, I think in the
oh
monastery,
yeah, they're doing it as part of the canon, or like within the canon. That might be it. Yeah. Anyway, it was all in Slavonic, so it was very hard to follow.
Right?
Well, yeah, we did have a couple.
Every once in a while, we had an, I think then Father David's was his in.
Father David did stuff in English, which was good. Yeah. And Father Patrick too, I think. And then, but yeah, pretty much everything else is all in Slavonic. So sometimes I would trip up at where we were in the service, but when you're serving behind the altar, that's much easier. So you're like, I know what's going on. Yeah. And I was very happy that, I'm not great at Slavonic yet. But I know enough of it that I could kind of follow along and catch up to where we were. We're like, oh wait, we're saying this, we're doing okay, yeah, now we're at this part. So yeah. And even though I technically, like, I got to serve in all of the liturgies that we had, by serve, I pretty much only the only things I got to do, because I'm such a low ranked deacon, and they have all those proto deacons, and then there's like there were about 30 of us, is like, okay, so for the creed, we all came out. For the Our Father and for the creed, like we all would come out,
stand out
and sing it, chant it all together in Slavonic. And so that was cool, but that was almost the only thing I really got to do back there.
More than me.
Yeah.
Standing out there.
Yeah. And then my godson, Father Daniel, was able to serve at vigil. That would have been Saturday night.
Yeah. So we showed up on Friday, and we got to meet. We greeted Metropolitan Nicholas.
Yeah,
right? Because
he's the Kursk Root Icon.
Yeah. And then we did matins, right? And then Saturday morning was a consecration, and then during the consecration, he also then ordained a deacon.
Yes,
right.
That's a pretty common thing. Is just like, when you get ordained a deacon, then you one of the first things you do is like a deacon's petition. Like it's the brand new ordinand gets to come out and do the last litany, which is all right, having partaken of the holy, divine, immortal, heavenly, life-giving, fearful mysteries of Christ, those worthily give thanks unto the Lord. And then, like, when you're ordained a priest, usually you're the one who gets to administer communion. And so when you're ordained a bishop, what's something only a bishop can do?
Ordain a priest.
Ordain someone. Yeah, ordain anybody.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So so he ordained a deacon the first day, then he ordained a priest the second day, which was really cool to see. Like, oh man, they're just knocking these out. We got a new priest.
They were long services too.
Yeah, they were very long. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of, it's funny. I told you that story. Myself and a couple of us went to the Fort Ross pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And the night before the pilgrimage, it was funny because at St. Peter and St. Paul and St. Rose, they have a roll corps. And then most of the things that were happening, they were at the OCA Cathedral, St. Seraphim. So we're like, hey, we should go to Vespers tonight because it says Vespers. And so we show up. It's like no one there, which sometimes, sorry, that does happen. First 5 minutes.
Oh, sure. Some people are on Orthodox time.
Yes.
So they show up late.
But I told them, because they had both recently been baptized. I was like, dude, when you go into service, I'd say usually be prepared for it to be 2 to 3 hours. You just never know, especially like your first Holy Week.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I showed up. I was like, man, or the canon. I'm like,
sure. Or if you're there at the reading of the 12 Gospels.
That one got me the first time. I'm like,
how long is this? Yeah.
12 Gospels or something? 4. The study. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, we're 4 in and it's been an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh,
it's going to be 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or Pascha, like I remember the first time here, Pascha. I think I showed up at 9 for our apostle readings. We started the apostle the reading of Acts at 9.
Yeah.
And then we do we didn't start, I think that was 2 or 3 years ago. Like we didn't actually start liturgy. I mean, technically we don't start liturgy till like 1:30.
Till like 1:30
because we do the hours, then
you do the Paschal matins.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, and Paschal Matins, you have the
Saint John.
sensing in between every ode. where
How many times do we
Christ
do
is-
that? 6, 12?
That would be, so it's there's
Right,
9 odes, but we skip ode 2, so that's 8 times.
Yeah, the priests
Yeah.
come out and go, Christ,
Yeah.
and they're all saying, okay.
Mhm.
I was trying to figure that. It's funny because you'd think I'd count, but I never counted. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, is it 4? Is it
Yeah.
6? I'm like, okay, we did it 3
Yeah.
times. Okay, it's not 3, it must be 10.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, it's 8.
Yeah, it's 8 times.
Yeah. So I mean, that one I showed up at 9.
Yeah.
It was
Uh-huh.
it was 9 to
Like 5 in the morning,
3:30. I think we
Uh-huh.
were done.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know about you, it's a lot easier when I walk in. And then it's funny because when George and I, we had went to the Annunciation at Life Giving Springs, and they said it's an all night thing. And I was like,
yeah.
oh no. And to be honest with you, I think it started at, I don't know if it started at 6 or 7.
Mhm.
Either way, I think I'm like, George, I'm weak, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's get there about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna go till 2 or 3. And it was funny. And I don't know Greek well, but I
Yeah.
know well enough that the priest came out at like 10:30
Mhm.
and did "Blessed is the Kingdom." I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute,
Uh-huh.
like we're starting liturgy at 10:30.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be done by midnight. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I was actually upset with myself.
Mhm.
Forgive me, because I'm like,
Sure.
okay, I can probably go like 4 hours, 5
Yeah.
hours, and I'm
Mhm.
like, and then we show up at 9, and I was like, okay, I can make it till 1 or 2. And then I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, we're gonna be done at midnight.
Yeah.
I kind of like had a little bit of oomph left, and then I
Yeah.
felt bad that I didn't push myself.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my long end of the story is like, you never know how long the service
Yeah.
is,
No.
And then
Anytime,
sometimes
yeah.
too, like, we don't do that as much. Father David can do an announcement or 2.
Yeah.
But that's like a couple
Mhm.
minutes. I've been at churches that the priest comes out and says, okay, everyone be seated.
Yeah.
And then it's 15 minutes,
Mhm.
and then maybe you have a panagia or
Oh yeah, Panakita.
panakita
Mhm.
or I've just had other things
Yeah.
happen afterwards for another 15 or 20 minutes
Yeah.
where I'm like,
Right.
I'm weak. Forgive me. So just a word of advice I tell
Yeah.
people, I'm like, don't ever try and put a time frame
Yeah.
unless you got to go somewhere,
Mhm.
like I would be always mindful that it could go longer than you think.
Yeah.
So,
And I do caution against showing up late, because the people that do. Oh, do we have a comment?
yeah, I think it's still on. Rock, Billy on. Christ is risen. Greetings from Holy Transfiguration.
Hey, truly he is risen.
I think that's still on. Could be wrong.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yay.
We have a super chat.
Welcome, brother.
Yeah, it's still on. All right. You're our number 1 fan. Look.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you. Nathaniel actually painted me. I've showed you. He did a Silouan and Sophrony icon.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
cool. What we're running on, I don't know. I don't have a timer going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say
We're running
sure
a
how
while.
long this has
Well,
been going.
I'd like to, we'll put the seeds out there. Like, I
Yeah.
think I've prompted Deacon. I think I'd like to do a series, and I'm thinking something like, how history will make
Yeah.
you Orthodox, or reading the Bible. So maybe we do a fusion of that. But
Yeah, he's got another comment.
yeah, he's looking forward to co-celebrate. Yeah, Ascension.
Yeah.
because we're doing that all Ascension, and then we have the Pan-Orthodox picnics in the park.
Yes, the perennial Pan-Orthodox.
Yeah, Pentecostal. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
still another, because Ascension's this week, right?
Yeah, Ascension's on Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
40 days and 50 days.
Right. Yeah, 'cause 10 more days till Pentecost.
Penti
Mhm.
5.
Yeah, and on Pentecost, that's when we'll switch from white to green vestments, and that's all stuff you got to care about.
Yeah, we got a
when you're
long
cleric.
Apostles fast this year, huh?
Yeah, it's a month.
us.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad as Lent, but when my wife saw it, she's like, no, not again. It's like, it's okay. This is new calendar guys it's not as bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Glory to God.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. We're always happy to hear you guys' feedback.
Yes,
We're
please.
figuring it out along the way. I guess until next time.
Yeah. Stay vigilant and God bless.
Oh, should we have said Christ is risen?
Oh, yeah. Christ is risen. Truly he is risen.